Hey guys, hi. So this is a new video. This video is about how the AI landscape looks in 2025, what all tools are being used for each purpose, whether it be video generation, image generation, how you're actually planning it, how you should approach and use those tools. So I've created a mind map for it, and I've also taken some inspiration from another channel called Riley Brown. He has also created his own, and I've tried to mimic that style. So what we're going to do is we're going to see a mind map, which will give you an idea of what tool to use for which purpose. It can be a proper tech purpose also, like coding and building apps, and can also be a very simple automation or image creation. So how you should go ahead and approach it, what are all the tools that are being so I'll give you an idea of it, so you know which tools are making the news in 2025 right now. So I'll take you to my mind map, and this is how it looks. So there are a lot of sections that I'm going to cover in this video. It includes beginner's guide to AI, what to use, how to use it, to some automations, how automations can be built, and what are some common automations that you can include for your own purpose if you're planning to build them out. Then some vibe coding, if you're planning to build or code an app, then how you can do it, what all steps should you keep in mind, how should you approach it, to eventually how you can monetize it, how you can push it to public, and if you want to make it a SaaS, a commodity that you wish to validate by maybe building an MVP first, or if you just want to build it end to end, and how you can scale it, how you can further take it up to the public as your own property, how you should do it. I've tried to cover all of this, so this is what we're going to talk about in this whole video. It'll be a one short video, and just let's get into it. I'll start with the beginner's guide to AI first. So for the beginner's guide, if you're very new and this all sounds very complicated to you, and all you've used is ChatGPT, and I'm assuming that you have used ChatGPT at least, so you get an idea of how chat apps work and how you should use them. But other than ChatGPT, also there are 2-3 tools that are very famous right now for chatting or researching. So one of them is Gemini, one of them is Claude, other one is called Grok. There is a tool called Perplexity also, and another is Copilot. Gemini is also available in a website called AI Studio. I'll show you that. So if you go to aistudio.google.com, this is how it looks. So here also you can chat directly with the Gemini models. You can select all the models. There is 2.5 Pro preview, which is the latest one as the time of this recording. There are faster models also for simple purposes like conversational model. For image generations also there are models, and very light models that are very fast, super fast. So these are some of the options that you can explore. Then Gemini also exists, gemini.google.com. There is also this if you want to explore it. Just like how you go to ChatGPT, you can visit this. It is directly by Google. Then another is Claude. So if you go to Claude, it is by a company called Anthropic. I'll not go to each tool and show you, but what I'll do is I'll give you an overview, so you get to understand what all tools are being used. So if you want to play around and get some hands-on experience with them on your own, just feel free to do that. But this video will be mostly about guiding you of what all tools are capable of, everything, just to give you an idea of their capability. So these are the main tools that are available for chat, and what these chat apps have now released as a functionality is called search. So you can search using them just like how you search on Google. These provide you an option to do a web search for some topic that you are maybe interested in. So if you want to know how many, for example, seats are there in the legislative assembly, so you, rather than going on Google, and if you want to know some insights on it, on when was this decided and any other information related to it, what are the original sources, etc. So what you can do is you can just select deep search or research. There are available with different names on different apps, so you can do that. So the efficient way of doing it is So first you decide what you want to research, and then you give it an idea of the project that you're doing. So it's not shooting in the dark, your chat app. So for example, what you'll say is, hey, I'm interested in this topic, this is what I'm researching on, and this is what I have an idea about. I have no idea about this. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to so and so kind of websites, like media websites only or academic websites only, and get me insights from it. So it will do that, and it's better if you have some relevant images also to add according to it, and give some valuable reference to the app, to the chat app. So what it can do is it can go ahead and create a web search and get you the results. So this is how currently chat apps are working. It is the best way to utilize them right now is initially using the web search functionality, and then getting those insights and then passing them back to the chat app for further discussion, for further insights if you want. So because what happens mostly is these chat apps are trained to a specific timeline of data available on the internet. So for example, if ChatGPT is trained only on data till 2023, and if you ask it some information that is very recent, maybe happened yesterday, so it will not be able to tell you those things. So it's better if you use web search first, and then using that information pass that back to maybe ChatGPT, and then ask for insights. So this is how maybe you should use chat apps, and personally I'm using them as well. For image generation, there are tools like Midjourney. Midjourney is good for realism, for faster batch processing. So you can go to Midjourney's website, look at the pricing models, how they're structured and everything, but it generates very realistic pictures. You get a very high definition picture from it. It's very good at generating real life faces also. So that is what Midjourney is good for. If you want to use ChatGPT 4o model, it's good for text to images directly, just like how you pass it to Midjourney. But mostly what people are using ChatGPT 4o is to give it relevant examples of their product or a graphic design and try to imitate that. So I've covered that in my previous video. If you want to have a look at it, just go ahead and try it there. But other than that, there is also Grok model. So Grok model is also able to generate very good images, but it's not very perfect at following your prompt pinpoint. So if you ask it for something and if it adds a certain quality in the image, you can't control that. So ChatGPT 4o and Midjourney should be your go-to image models. So coming to AI graphics, there are some options like Flora Magnific. So what these tools allow is you can take an output from a previous model and pass it to the later on model. So for example, if you have an image maybe generated by Midjourney or ChatGPT, and it is a say resolution image of 1080 by 1080, and if you want to upscale it, then you can use another module inside Flora or Kriya that will allow you to take the same image and upscale it. And then if you want to use the upscaled image later on into a sub workflow where you want to maybe convert that image, static image, into a simple 2-second stock video, you can do that as well. So you can bring it to life using these tools. So Flora is very good at it, Kriya is very good at it, Magnific also achieves that for you. So this is all for AI graphics. Similarly, let's come to video. There are a lot of open source video models also and paid versions of it available as well. So what mostly people are doing is they're using Runway. Runway is very famous right now, and they have a Gen 4 model, turbo model, which is very fast and very good at getting everything right if you give it the correct prompt. And then there is Pika Labs, then there is Google VO, then there is Luma Labs, there is Sora. All these are, other than Google VO, are paid, so you only get one free trial or 2-3 trials of it. But post that you have to pay for it. And honestly, if you're taking a subscription, I'll suggest go for Runway. Google VO is also very good. VO2 model is very good. But the way you should approach them is you should have a reference image first and then pass that to these video models. If you're using text to video, then it's fine. But if you already have an image that you want to maybe bring to life, then it's better that you use image to video models. So what you can do is you can give it an example of your already generated image, maybe using Midjourney or ChatGPT, and then ask it to use the first image as the starting frame and the last image as the last frame of the video, and generate the shots in between. So for example, a shot can be of maybe a fox starting to run and then sitting to rest, and it should generate the frames in between, and you'll get a stock video of fox starting to run and then eventually resting. So this is how usually video models work. If you have a starting frame and if you have an ending frame, then this is how you get a consistent video generation out of it. And you can use other models like 11 Labs. You can use some other tools for generating the music, background music, the SFX of it, sound effects, dialogues also if you want to. So 11 Labs will do that for you. But this is how the usually flow looks like. So I'll give you an idea here. So you bring in your generated image from Midjourney or ChatGPT 4o, and then passing the starting frame and ending frame, and then you get a video out of it, and you will have maybe say a 30-second clip that you generated. So you can bring in the video, music from 11 Labs, SFX that you want to use for a certain section from 11 Labs, dialogues from 11 Labs, and if you don't like anything, you can just bring that part and edit that later on, or just replace it entirely with a new generation for voice. So 11 Labs is very suited for it. It's the best voice model platform that is available right now. And just a bonus to it is, I'll cover this inside this as well. So there are some other options also available, which are like Hagen, Synthesia, Argil, Vigil, Face Fusion, Run Diffusion. So what these platforms allow you to do is they are basically used to clone yourself. So what you will get for these is you will be able to clone yourself. So it will try to replicate your hand movements, your actions, how you talk, how you turn your face, and how your face moves when you talk, and how your facial muscles twitch when you get excited or you're talking about something important maybe. So this is what they try to do. They basically call it a digital avatar of yours. So you can create that using Hagen. Hagen is the most famous platform for it, and you must have already seen some videos or reels already on Instagram where people have cloned themselves. So these are the platforms that they're using to do it right now. Synthesia is also good, Argil is also good, but mostly Hagen is the preferred right now. There's also Captions AI that I forgot to include here, but you can do that as well. For video editing, there's a tool called Descript. You can use Descript. What it does is it transcribes your whole video into captions, and then you can directly edit your video using the captions that are there. So if you want to remove a certain section or you want to change that section, so you can make changes directly in the script itself and you'll get a edited video. So there are a lot of options that are available for video editing. You can look into Descript for that. That is what is the most famous platform for it. So that is for the image, video and chat section. So this is how the main tool stack looks right now. So for chat, there's ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropic, Claude, Grok, Perplexity, Copilot. Video is Kling, Runway, Pika, Google Veo, Luma Labs, Sora. And images are Midjourney, ChatGPT 4o, Grok, Kriya. AI graphics, I already told you, Flora and Kriya already exist. And I covered Descript already. There are also some other chat tools like Notion AI, Notebook LM, Google Docs with AI. These are not very chat heavy based applications. I'll leave Notebook LM aside first. But Notion AI specifically, so just like a notes app, you can talk to your notes in your app. So that is for that specifically. Google Docs Edit with AI is if you want to make changes inside your written piece already that you have. So you can do that with Google Edit with AI, but that is a workspace only feature right now. So only if you have Google Premium, you can do that. But Notebook LM is a free tool. So what Notebook LM allows you to do is you can upload a lot of PDFs of yours or documents and talk to them directly there, just like how you do it on ChatGPT, but you can upload a lot more files. And you also get an audio generated out of it, a podcast style audio. So you can hear to your documents. If you want to understand them using an audio format, you can do that as well. So Notebook LM is a good tool to use for that. And that is the first stack that we covered. Now let's go into the automation flow section. So automation and flows may in automation and flows, you have these sections called no code tools and agent tools. So there's a difference between no code tools and agent tools. Agent tools are AI agents that do tasks for you, and if you give it a starting point that you want it to achieve a certain task, it will go on its own, try to understand what it needs to do, does research, opens tabs, opens apps, and behaves on its own to achieve the end result. But no code automations are something that you build, and they are a very linear kind of flows. So they're not multi-step flows. So if you decide that the flow will be like this and it'll follow this step or this procedure, these are how automations mostly work. So that is the main difference between agent and automations. So if you have an agent tool, maybe like O3, Deep Research, or Manus, so you can use Manus for maybe booking your flight. So you can tell it, I want to book a flight from A to B on this time, so book me the cheapest flight, and it will go and try to find the cheapest ticket and try to book that for you. So that is how Manus works. Deep Research is a feature by Google under Gemini. So if you go to gemini.google.com, you can do research on a specific topic that you're interested in, and it will search off to 1,000 websites and get you a curated article about what all it found from each source. And that is how Deep Research works. So it is also agentic in nature. It goes to all websites, scrapes information out of them, and then prepares a draft for you. O3 also tries to achieve that similarly. It will do any task that you give it. But Zapier, Lindy, N8N, Make.com, these are some no-code automation tools. So you can build these automations. These are like drag and drop modules. So you pick one module and then you select the next module that should be connected to it, and then it will follow that pattern of once the first module is done running, then only it shifts to the next module, and so on. So this is how you can build a multi-step flow out of these no-code tools. So these are also very handy. So I'll come to how those are being very useful and being used in enterprises right now. So we'll come to that later. But for content synthesis also, there's a subsection. So there's some tools that are being used for content ideas and fine-tuning ideas. So CapCut is one, Figma is one, Premiere Pro is one, Canva is also one. So Canva, you already know that if you want to create a template or a graphic design, you can do that with Canva. But Canva AI has also released very recently, so you can just talk to the AI and ask it to create maybe a wedding invitation, and it'll do that for you. CapCut is having some good options of automatically editing your videos, adding transitions and stuff like that. So it can edit some videos for you. So if you have a finalized version, but if you want to remove the silences, the white noise from it, you can use CapCut. Figma is good for developing, so I'll leave that for later on. But Premiere Pro is also something that you can look into for voice enhancement, for video quality. Adobe is releasing good tools inside Premiere Pro, like tools itself, Audition, Adobe Audition. So if you have Adobe subscription, premium subscription, these are also some good tools that you can look into. Then coming to Vibe Code section, this is the section that if you've watched my previous video, you'll also be having a good idea of what all these tech stack are that I'm mentioning here. So there are some vibe coding apps like Windsurf and Cursor. These are end-to-end AI IDs, integrated development environments. So these are for the next level of your development. So only once you have a finalized version, then is when you should shift to these vibe coding platforms. But if you have an idea, if you have an inspiration that you want to use, it's better that you use Lovable and Bolt first. So what they do is they develop a very beautiful looking front end for you, how your app can look, and you can talk to the chat directly, make changes there itself. those kind of options is where Dribbble and Bolt shine specifically. And these are some of the tools in vibe coding section. There are very famous models right now that are very powerful in vibe coding. So Gemini 2.5 Pro is the leading model right now for coding. Inside AI IDEs, obviously results can vary for each different purpose, but mostly it has been seen that if you're using AI IDEs like Windsurf, Cursor, then Gemini 2.5 Pro performs the best. Claude 3.5 Sonnet is also good. Sorry, 3.7 Sonnet. If you use it without AI IDs, it has been said to perform better, but it is almost on par with Gemini 2.5 because it has been optimized by Cursor at least. I'm not sure about Windsurf, but Cursor has been optimized for 3.7, so it performs very well there as well. There is DeepSeek R1, which is very powerful thinking model. So if you want to code, it might not be the best, but it can be a cheaper option for you, and it's very good in coming up with a structure or a plan first. So if you want to do some development, then for the initial planning you can use DeepSeek R1 at least. They're also going to release R2 by the end of this week, so R2 will also be released. So it is also a very good coding. It is also going to be a very good coding model for sure. GPT-o3 is the leading model right now in terms of benchmarks. So, but it is also very cost heavy. So it should only be used, honestly, in my opinion, if you have to create documents, if you have to come up with a structure, plan something out in your development, then go ahead with O3. Otherwise, I won't suggest doing coding or creating code with O3. There is Grok 3. There is also Llama 4 that has been launched. Both of these are not very frontier models for coding per se, but they are good for subtasks. So if you need to make any improvements or bug fixes, then you should use these tools, these coding models. There are also some AI model repositories like Fal AI, Replicate, and OpenRouter. I know that Fal has been hidden under this, but this is how Replicate's icon look. So Fal AI, Replicate, and OpenRouter, these are the three options that are available. So if you want to use any AI models via APIs, then you can go to these platforms, find those more hosted models there, and just bring their API keys directly and use them in your environments. For deployments, Vercel and Replit are the go-to right now in the industry. They are scalable architectures, so if you want to scale and stick to them also in the future, you can keep doing that. But for MVPs, these are preferred. Mostly Vercel, I'll say. And coming to DB, which is database, where you should host your data, where should you maintain tracking usage of each user, how are you going to store your data, buckets, call functions, etc. All things that you need to do related to SQL. It's mostly being done in Firebase, Supabase, InstantDB. They handle authentication also for you. They take care of how to integrate buckets, storage, call, backend systems. They take care of everything for you. So this is how database works right now. There are also some tools and architecture or agents which I'll cover later on. But this is how the overall vibe coding tech stack looks right now. So for chat apps, I don't think I've covered this section, so let me cover this also. For chat apps, there are a lot of features that these different chat apps provide right now. So if you are using Claude, if you're using Gemini for one thing, all of these have a different feature section. So if one has one thing, maybe something is missing out on that. So just a list for that if you're maybe using Claude, then you can create your own projects in Claude. It does provide you a canvas in Claude's sense, they call it artifact. Does it provide you an option to do web search? Yes. Does it provide you an option to do deep research on the web, like scrape up to 1,000 websites? No, Claude does not do that. File upload, can you do? Almost all of these chat models allow you to do that. Can you do a video analysis out of these? Like, can you upload maybe 15-minute video and get an analysis report or something analyzed out of those by talking to the LLM to analyze that video? No, only Gemini can do that. But deep research, honestly, Gemini is very good at, and ChatGPT also does it very well. But right now, as the time of shooting this video, ChatGPT was able to research the most number of websites using its web deep research option. Perplexity is also very good at it. Grok is also very good at it. Grok is suited if you want to do research mostly specifically on Twitter, like how conversations have been around a topic on Twitter. Then Grok is very good at it because it has been trained on Twitter data specifically. So it is, you should use Grok specifically when you want to take some insights specifically from Twitter. And I think I should also cover the Canvas and artifact section. So Canvas is nothing but workspace kind of arena that these chat apps provide you. So if you want to talk to any of these chat apps and you want that your conversation should be stored in a canvas where you can come back and make changes or ask for refinements, then you can do that there. So that is what artifacts basically look or mean in this case. But you can create projects in all of these chat apps, like you can have a chat ID that you can go back and see the conversation, how it went. So that is how projects work. I think I've covered all of the chat apps that are there, and this is how basically the tool stack looks for it. And I'll cover the APIs section along with the coding, but let me go on to the automation section now. So coming on to automations, what mostly these automations do for you is they allow you to a workflow that you already do manually and streamline it to be handled on its own. So if you maybe have a lot of emails that you need to respond to in a certain way, and you know that you only need to do it in a specific way for each user. So maybe if you only need to add their first name in each mail, how you can automate that. So this is where these low code or no code automation tools come up. And here is very easy to use. Make.com, known as Integromat, are very easy to use for custom and a little bit more complex automations. N8N is used. But this is how the mostly landscape looking right now. These are the leading tech tools for it. So you can see some examples that I've added here. So there is Google Form to Airtable. So just for an example, you have your own company, your own business, and you want to automate the process of taking a survey. So for example, you need to reach out to a lot of people and take some details from them, just like how you take them in a Google form, that what's your name, what is your email ID, are you having this kind of problems, etc., etc., and where can we reach you. So what you can do is you can attach this flow or create this flow in your no-code tool. So you can start with a Google Forms response module. All of these modules are already pre-built in Zapier, Make, N8N, so you don't need to create anything specifically there. You will just go ahead and click a Google Forms module there, select it, and then connect it to an OpenAI module. So then OpenAI module will draft a response for you for a form, that the form response that has been coming to you, and just draft it, keep it ready to be approved, and then just send it out as a mail from your mail ID. So this is how you can track the usage also and make sure that you have a tracking kind of that what mail was sent to which person based on what details that they filled out. So for that you can add the last stage of maintaining responses and details in an Airtable. So you can also use Google Sheets, but people use Airtable, so I use that. Similarly, you have an option of email triage into Jira. So if you get a lot of tickets from, for example, in your business, so if you want to create Jira or Slack notifications directly from it, so what you can do is you can ask or create an automation in these platforms, which will look like whenever support mail comes, and you can filter the support mails email IDs directly. So whenever a support mail comes, you read that mail, understand the problem that is there, extract the key issues that are there, and then based on the key issues, you can pass those key issues to OpenAI to classify them between high priority, medium priority, lower priority, and then take the generated response, add that into a Jira, create a new ticket, or maybe send out a Slack to teams that hey, this is the new priority issue that we have received from support. So this is how you can do that. You can also do a post purchase follow up from Shopify, like how if a user has once purchased something from you, how you can do a follow up maybe a week later or 2 weeks later to keep in touch with the user. How are they performing and whether they are satisfied, so they're more likely to come back to you. And this is how mostly this works. Then there is email triage into Jira, just the same thing, but you can obviously make more workflows also. So if you want to make any changes into the way the flow works, or it flows into Slack, or how you actually go about creating a Jira ticket, you can fine tune it, add more steps later on, more filters about how exactly it should create it. So these are the kind of functionalities you can play around in low code automations. So just to give you an example of what all is possible there. So that was for this. Now coming to the effective vibe coding for Cursor. So just like I already told you, Cursor is the leading AI IDE for developing apps right now. So if you don't have any background in tech, you don't know any software, still if you know how to go about building an idea that you are very passionate about, you can do that using these AI IDEs like Cursor or Windsurf. So it's a very powerful tool if you know how to use it right. So this is the last step of my mind map of how you should go about doing that. But before that, I'll cover this section of how to come up with the best vibe code app ideas that make money. So point one is, what specific pain point does it solve? And then how can you get the user to solve that problem in as little touches as possible? So for example, there is that app called CalAI that was very popular recently, and I talked about it in my previous video also. So it is a very simple app, kind of a functionality that ChatGPT was also achieving for you, but people did not think about it enough that they can do that with ChatGPT. So this person created an app around it. So what it basically did for them is, you just take a picture of your food and get the calories out of it. How many calories does this food look like? You'll get a breakdown of carbs, proteins and fats in that food based on the portion size, based on the ingredients that it is able to figure out in that, and how much the sub ingredients will affect the overall calorie intake. So those kind of things you could do in CalAI. So the idea is that you can basically build any app that you think users will like, but you need to know the pain point. Is it an actual pain point that is being solved for the users, or is it something that only you think will be valuable? So you need to have that clarity first, and what you should do is you should do some market research around it. Try to use these AI research tools like Gemini and like Deep Research. Maybe I'll just give you an example here. Like ask the Gemini Deep Research or ChatGPT Deep Research to find the sentiment around an app. Is it something that people are looking for? So it can be, in this case, a calorie app tracker. So have a lot of people posted about a need of this, and they actually want something like this. So it can do that. Go to maybe 100 subreddits, find hundreds of posts under each subreddit, and come up with a sentiment analysis for you. So it can be a very simple market research like this also, or you can back it with actual in-person reviews with people, and you can read some reports that have been published earlier. So you can do a lot of these things, but what you need to basically do is you need to validate that idea. Maybe you can start first with building an MVP and pitching it to maybe 3-4 friends of yours. Ask for their suggestions. Is it something that they were actually looking for, or it's just another feature? So this is how you should basically approach your vibe coding journey. Try not to build large scale applications on the first go, but build something very small, something very level. I wouldn't even say MVP, even pre MVP. Just start with a front end or a design, or maybe an image of how you're planning it to look like, and then show that to your friends or whatever you consumer maybe, and then ask them, is this something that they think that you built would be something that they'll be interested in. So this is how you should start maybe. And then what you should utilize is something called like APIs. I won't go to in a lot of detail of how APIs actually work, but I'll cover very simple infographic about how these APIs actually work in the background. So for example, APIs are being used in all these vibe coded apps, all the vibe coded apps that you see right now that have become very popular, like DharatalAI, Particle News, Remini, Photomath, Voice Notes AI, Lens AI, just to name some few. And what they're actually using is under the hood, they're actually using image to text API. Particle News is using text to speech API. Remini is using AI for image to upscaled image. And I've also written some functionalities that these apps do. So for example, Voice Notes AI, they do live transcribing. So when you join a meet, it joins with you, and then it transcribes the whole meeting, and then later on, just like how an assistant would give you notes of the meeting, it will give you minutes of the meeting, and it will also give you a summary what was the core discussion around, and also give you detailed descriptions about what participant talked about, which topic specifically. So it can achieve all of that. So there are a lot of pain points that these apps are actually solving, which is why they're popular. It's not that they came up with something very special or unique. They identified the exact need for each user. So for example, DharatalAI knew that if you're going to the gym and you're very calorie conscious, or you're trying to lose weight, tracking down calories is very important for you. So if you don't have a bowl or some kind of measurement scale that you use to exactly maintain your calories or track them, it's very difficult. So maybe the easiest possible way for a user is to take some picture and then upload it on ChatGPT or any app, and then get an idea. So they at least have a ballpark idea of how much calories they take in a day. And similarly, particle news also, it did what it so similarly particle news also what it did for users was, it was very difficult for people to keep up with the latest updates, latest information of what all is happening in the world. And if they're driving, if they're traveling, how can they consume news in a very easy format? So that is what it did for them. So if they had any articles, streams, it converted that directly into natural voice, so they don't need to look at the screen. So those kind of examples, and all of those were built using APIs in the background. So DharatalAI does not have a foundational model of its own. Particle News, Remini, Photomath, none of these have a foundational models of their own. They're only using ChatGPT or maybe some other open source models, and that is the running cost for them, and they're charging you additional cost on top of it, so they're able to meet their costs. So for doing that, they utilize APIs, and APIs are very powerful. So maybe a very simple version of understanding how APIs actually work will be that when you use any app and you click on any button, then that button click is a trigger that is sent in the background to a model like ChatGPT or Gemini or any model which is an LLM, and that LLM gives a response which we send back to the app that you see on your phone. So the API is actually talking for you. It looks like to you that the app is doing everything on its own, but in the background is sending those requests and receiving responses from LLMs. So the user will only see the response directly on the app, but on the background, this is what actually happens. So it's very important to use APIs. Without APIs, it's almost not possible to build of your own unless you're trying to build a foundational AI model from scratch, which is almost next to impossible since how good have these models gotten in the recent times. So this is how basically you use APIs, and this is some of my favorite APIs to use in apps. So I've listed down some of them for what kind of usage I use which tool. So if I'm creating a text to code feature in my app, like I want the user to be able to type out some text or a prompt, and they should get a generated code out of it to maybe use in their project or something like that, then ChatGPT allows me to do that. There are text to image models, text to structured text models, image to text models. So all of these options can be explored, and which I do with ChatGPT, specifically OpenAI. Gemini API has also become very famous and very popular because it provides you free usage up to a certain limit. But for OpenAI, you have to pay out of the box initially, so you don't get any free usage. So Gemini is also as good, and it provides all of the features. So if you're trying to create an app, maybe where you upload an image and get a response about that image, then you can use OpenAI as well and use Gemini API as well. 11 Labs is very good for text to voice, text to sound effects, and voice to voice. So if you have some kind of idea that you want your app to have a text that you can enter, and then they're able to get a voice generated out of it that talks about that text, so you can use 11 Labs for that. Similarly for sound effects, and also you can talk to the app and get a response directly like in a voice format, then also 11 Labs API is available for that. Perplexity is good enough for search and deep search. That is the core functionality of Perplexity. Replicate and FalAI are very good for text to image and text to video. So if you want to add any text and get an image generated for it, these models that are hosted on FalAI and Replicate, you can directly call them using these APIs. So it's very good for that. Runway, Kling, Pika, View, Luma, these are directly video models. So if you want to generate video directly in your apps, and go ahead and use APIs of these platforms. Superdata is specifically for YouTube. So if you want to get YouTube transcriptions, YouTube summaries, so use Superdata for that specifically. So if you're planning to use any of these options of maybe video generation, of code, of getting a response in text format, so you can use all of these APIs. These are the most common API formats that are being used right now. So I just covered how APIs work and how you can utilize APIs. Now let's go to effective vibe coding. So now that you know how vibe coding works, I'll tell you about three main aspects of building using Cursor, which are scalability, security, and professional design. So let's cover how your app might need it or might not need it in your build. So let's talk about that. So what are you actually trying to create with them? Are you trying to create a basic site? Are you trying to create a web app, or are you trying to create a mobile app? So if you're trying to create a mobile app, it's good that if you use an app builder directly in the phone itself. So there is an app called Vibe Code by Riley Brown. You can use that, and what it does for you is you can directly talk to the chat in the app itself, and it will give you a design, how it will look, and try to do integrations for your app as well. You can drop in your API keys, maybe from Google or OpenAI, and try to use it. And that is how you can create a very simple design for the mobile app, what you're trying to actually build. For a basic site, what you can do is you can use Wix, Frame, Blackbox AI, all three of these work. And what these basically do is they go about building an end-to-end website for you. It uses stock images from Google or Unsplash, from websites like these, and creates a very smooth kind of website which has no functionality built in. If you only want a simple page or 2-3 pages of a website, then go ahead and use these tools. For a web app, it's good that if you use Cursor for building it out, and Supabase for the database. But even before Cursor, it's good that if you start with an idea from Lovable or Bolt or Tempo. I've covered that in my previous video, how to go about building a SaaS if you're trying to build an app. So it's better that if you have a front end design that you like, then you can bring that into Lovable or Bolt, and then use that design later on in Cursor by downloading the code repository and bringing that into Cursor. And then, so if you're trying to build a game, you'll need to learn about 3JS. There's something called Unreal Engine. You'll need to know these things, and because Cursor can, even though it can use Gemini model and OpenAI models, it is not very good at using the documentation directly from this. So it's good that you also have an idea about what it is trying to build and how is it coding for you. So if you feel that it did not write a code properly, you can make the changes directly there itself, and you can also prompt the IDE better for coding stuff. So if you act as a guide for it, it will obviously work better. So it's always good to have a background in some technology that you're trying to use. So if you're not trying to develop a game and you're only sticking to product development, then it's better that you use a boilerplate code. So what is a boilerplate code? Boilerplate code is something that acts as a starting point for you, so you don't have to build everything from scratch. The tool that I'll suggest you for it is something called Substack. There is also another tool called Tempo, and what they basically do for you is they give you a code kind of structure, folder structure, which is very optimized, which is actually followed in industry for developing apps. So once you use that, you can build on top of it or add files there itself, so it has less chances to break. It is more organized, and you can get a pre-built kind of structure, like integrations set up with your database, with authentication and stuff like that. So you don't need to set everything from scratch. You get a starting point. So that is how you should start about building. And it's also very important that you have a vision document. So what is vision document? What it actually tries to so a vision document is basically it tries to encapsulate what you're actually trying to build and keep that as a reference for your AI. So if you're using Cursor maybe for development, so a vision document will be the guide for it, of what all is done, what needs to be done now, and what is remaining, and along with that, what are some of the untouched things that we need to work on, what are some no-goes. For example, we don't need to use maybe PHP for it, we are only using React for front end, and we don't need to use Python, we are only using JavaScript or Node.js. So what languages do we need to stick to for development? What are we going to build as the first version of it? So a vision document will give it an idea, and it can build on top of that idea and maybe stick to that idea also. So your vision document will also contain some steps, what I want built. So it can have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and once the steps are completed, the AI can go back and mark those as checked also in your vision document. So along with that vision document, what you should have is something called version control. It is very common, something called GitHub. If you have no idea, you can check out my previous video. So version control basically allows you to keep working version, a stable version of your code present at all times. So if your code goes live sometime and you have a working version of it, and you want to make sure it does not break in the future when you make changes to it, so it's better that you host it working version somewhere and then keep making changes in it once you're sure that the changes that you're going to add won't break it. So that is the core reason that you do version control. You mostly do it using GitHub by creating something called repositories. So that is how you actually go about doing that, and it is a very good practice that everyone does. You can also provide documentations. So for example, if you're building out something that is very niche, or the documentation for it, how to go about using it, might not be available to the AI, so it's always better that you use deep research or some kind of research on the topic and get those files, get those information, and then pass that to the AI for developing. So for example, an example perplexity prompt can be, I'm using X API, can you please find relevant code examples to do Y? And the tech stack that I'm using is this. So explain how it works and then write it out. So it will do all of that, and then the response can be sent back to your AI IDE for development. And the last stage can be, whenever you're stuck, just start a new chat. So if you think that the AI is not responding the way that you want it to, just rather than trying to stick to it, it's better that you start a new conversation rather than asking it to make changes again and again and talking back to it, because sometimes it can get lost in the conversation and have a bias built in the conversation that it's not able to break. So it's always good to start a new conversation. So maybe switch to a new feature, start a new chat, or it's always better that you don't let the chats with the agent become too long. So that is how you do effective vibe coding with Cursor. And there is also So that is how you do basically effective vibe coding. And last section is coming up with the best vibe code apps that make money using Paul Graham's philosophy. So we have covered the effective vibe coding section now, and the last section is how you should go about building your vibe code apps using Paul Graham's philosophy. What is the best way to monetize them basically? So the way that you should approach it is you need to understand very simple thing that there's always a bubble around you, and more now in recent times when social media is being used, and AI also has a bias that it tries to keep you in your word view rather than letting you explore new aspects or new possibilities of looking at a topic from a different perspective. It tries to align with your thought process. So everything is trying to keep you in your bubble, and it is more now than ever. So it is more now than ever important that. So it is important now more than ever that you understand that the word view that you have and the word has can be very different. So if you're looking at a problem, it might look like a problem to you because you belong to that group which has seen that problem, or you've talked to people from your group which are seeing that problem around you. So maybe you're an athlete and you feel that there's no app for certain problem that you face, like sleep or muscle recovery, for example, a very niche problem that you see, and you think that it is a very important problem to you, and it can be. But if you're trying to monetize it, you need to understand that the word view that you have might not be the same for all the groups. So maybe it is good for athlete, but if you're going to build it for everyone, then maybe it is not an actual problem that everyone is facing, because they're not performing physically at that level of yours all the time. So it's good that you understand that in one of these groups you are likely the one that is experiencing pain. So pay very close attention to the people in these groups and where they experience pain, and list out their problems. So try to understand that whether the issue that you're trying to resolve is an actual issue for everyone else or not. And once you have that issue pinpointed, you have pinpointed 5 problems, 6 problems, then try to design an MVP around that. Create a solution which is very simplistic, does not look fancy at all. You don't need to focus. The most common pitfall people fall into is they try to ace the design first, how it should look, how it should feel, which is mostly not the case. When someone is going to use it, they don't focus on that first, honestly. Has been my experience. If it solves a problem for them, then it is a good enough solution for them, and a good design can be an added feature, but it can not be the core of your product. So it's more important that you focus on getting the feature right, the pain point solved, rather than focusing on the design of it, how good it looks, your web page or your mobile app or whatever. So what you can do is you can use Verself v0.dev, and it is very good at coming up with a very simplistic design while also trying to design something that actually solves something, whatever pain point that you have, and then share that prototype with people. You only need a very small testing circle for it. So even if you test it with 10 people and you get positive responses from maybe 8 or 7 people, it means that your solution that you're posing is actually something that people are actually looking out for. So once you have that finalized, you can go ahead and scale that or refine that, or maybe bring more people in if you have funds. So it's good that you follow that philosophy of building out fast and failing fast, rather than sticking to perfecting it first. So just like how I was talking, these are some of the common pitfalls, like intellectualizing, sitting in a room to brainstorm startups instead of observing real life. People keep thinking of what can be the perfect solution for starting out, rather than thinking of how it can actually lead to some solution or relief for people. And if it is not solving a real life problem, people are not going to use it for a long time, honestly. Wait for perfect conditions. Good ideas look small and often uncool at birth. This is also one factor. If you think that you'll maybe one day get perfect conditions for creating something, It does not happen that way. You don't ever get the perfect time to do it. It's you should just start and get an idea in the first place. There's no right time to do it. Solution fixation, forcing a trendy technology on a phantom problem. So people sometimes try to do overkill also. So for example, a friend of mine was talking about creating an AI agent that handles payment gateway. So the whole idea was they're going to use blockchain for it, and they'll do transactions on that chain, and AI agents will be able to have a conversation with that chain and do payments for you, transactions for you, which is a good functionality. But does it really need to be added for maybe a gym training app or a calorie tracker app? I don't think that it is actually needed there. So you need to make sure that you don't overkill on a technology. Make sure that only the necessary functionality is added, which actually solves your problem also and is feasible and does not overkill. There is prestige noise also. So choosing ideas that impress investors or friends rather than serving needy users. Again, the same thing. Uh, Choose only the thing that people actually need, not something that you can pitch or you think that will be fancy to talk about. So this is it for the video. I've shown you a mind map of what all tools are working, how you can go about developing apps, to how you should go about ideating them, to getting a first validation for them, how you can monetize them, and what tech stack you can use. So I've tried to cover a lot of things, but mostly give you an idea about how 2025 landscape is looking right now and what tools are actually working, what people are using right now. So this was the whole concept of the video. I hope you liked it, and if there is anything that you want me to discuss also later on, drop a comment, and I'll look at it, and we'll make sure that I cover that maybe as a separate video, or I'll reply to you in the comment section about what I think about it. So do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. See you. Thank you.